Plan on flying? It's time to upgrade to a real ID. Because in order to board domestic flights, your driver's license or state-issued ID must be a real ID, or you'll need another acceptable form of identification. So don't wait. Find out how to get your real ID at tsa.gov/realid. That's tsa.gov/realid, or visit your local DMV. And then you'll be cleared for takeoff. Plan on flying? In order to board domestic flights, your driver's license or state-issued ID must be a real ID. Learn how to get your real ID today at tsa.gov/realid, or visit your local DMV.
Welcome to the Season of Self-Love podcast. I am your host, Nyomi Banks, and I am thrilled to have you join me on this transformative journey. You see, every day we dive into a powerful conversation about self-discovery, healing, and empowerment. This podcast is brought to you by Ask Nyomi and Elevate Me Self-Discovery, where we believe that loving yourself is the first step to living a fulfilling life. You can expect insightful discussions, practical tips, and inspiring stories. Plus, we'll occasionally welcome special guests who will share their unique perspectives on self-love and personal growth. So get comfy, grab your favorite beverage, and let's embark on this journey together. Because it's time to embrace the beautiful person that you are. So let's elevate our lives one episode at a time. Now let's get started. All right, my beautiful people. Well, welcome to Transfer Tuesday here on the Season of Self-Love podcast, where we embrace healing, growth, and transformation one episode at a time. I am your host, Nyomi Banks, and as always, I am so honored to hold space for you on this journey of self-discovery and empowerment. Well, this month we are diving deep into nurturing relationships, fostering healthy connections with ourselves and others. You know, yesterday on Mindset Monday with Dr. Will and we explored the foundations of healthy relationships, on how two individuals who are actively working on themselves come together to create something beautiful. And then tomorrow on Wednesday, we will be talking about boundaries and self-love with best-selling author Leslie Lindsay Davis. But today on Transform Tuesday, I want to get real with you all about something that happened to me just yesterday. Just yesterday, a powerful lesson about boundaries, respect, and understanding the emotional landscape of our relationships. You know, earlier this year when I told y'all that God be working with me in real time, especially when we talk about the conversations that we having on those series month. The topic we're talking about is nurturing relationships. And I remember talking to Dr. Will, and even in the episode that we talked about on Thursday about relational relationships, or what it looks like in between those relationships. And yesterday I had this conversation in real time that was like, this is what you need to show them. This is what you need to show them, what happens in real time in regular life. And when I tell you, yeah, we're going to talk about it when we come back from break, all right? It's your girl, Goddess Nyomi Banks here on the Season of Self-Love podcast. And we'll be right back.
Join us this May for a groundbreaking series that bridges the gap between love and mental wellness. Love and Mental Health, a powerful 4-part journey exploring the intricate connection between relationships and mental well-being. Every Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, join host Nyomi Banks alongside our resident therapist, Dr. Will Washington, health psychologist and owner of Washington Wellness Institute, who brings his expertise to all 4 powerful episodes. Each week, they're joined by remarkable specialists. Week 1, May 1st, author of God's Divine Plans for Marriage and ordained Christian minister, Krista Nicole, tackles dating while managing mental health. Week 2, May 8th, marriage and family therapist Aquila Wheatley, owner and founder of Support Advice, discusses supporting a partner with mental health challenges. Week 3, May 15th, celebrity relationship coach and intuitive energy healer Terry Christie, TV personality and author of The Secret Power of You, explores couples therapy and mental health. Week 4, May 22nd, London-based clinical psychologist and sex/intimacy coach Dr. Lori Beth Bisbay delves into generational mental health and relationships. This powerhouse lineup combines Dr. Washington's ongoing expertise with specialized insights from our weekly guests, offering you a comprehensive approach to mental health and relationships. Whether you're single, dating, or in a committed relationship, this series delivers the tools and understanding you need. Don't miss this life-changing series. Follow Ask Nyomi Bridging the Gap on your favorite podcast platform and visit AskNyomi.com to be part of the conversation. Because when it comes to love and mental health, knowledge is power. Always keep it so sexy.
All right, my beautiful people, well, welcome back. All right, so before we dive into this, let's center ourselves for a brief moment of mindfulness. And you know how we do it here. If you could just close your eyes and get in a comfortable position right now. All right, so I want you to inhale deeply through your nose for a count of 4, 2, 3, 4, and hold your breath for 4, 3, 4. Now exhale slowly through your mouth for 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's do that one more time. Inhale for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now exhale 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now as you continue to breathe naturally, I want you to visualize the relationships in your life. I want you to see them as sacred spaces between you and others. Spaces that need tending, respect, and care. Now with each breath, I want you to envision yourself honoring these spaces, setting loving boundaries where needed, and creating room for authentic connections. Now I want you to repeat silently to yourself. I honor myself and others through healthy boundaries. I listen with my heart and not just my ears. I want you to take one final deep breath in. Now exhale completely. Now when you are ready, gently open your eyes, and I want you to carry this intention with you as we dive into today's discussion, all right? All right, my beautiful people, if you are new here to the Season of Self-Love podcast, it's something we do every day, Monday through Friday. It just helps us to ground us before we get into the topic at hand. All right, so now you know how at the beginning of the year, I shared on how God shows me in real-time experience that I feel compelled to share with you all here, right? Well, again, it happened again yesterday, and I knew immediately that I had to change today's episode to share with you all. And I had to sit in it for a moment. As I say, I had to let it marinate. I had to let it marinate. So yesterday I had a conversation with this person that I've considered a friend. Has been a friend of mine for several years now. When I say several years now, I mean more than 7 years. And we've had the conversation that we had before. We know each other boundaries. We've learned each other to know each other boundaries. And one of the things that I've shared professionally and personally is that I don't talk politics. And there's a reason why I don't talk politics. It's because growing up, I saw that the politicians around me did not truly care about the community or my community. And you say, Nyomi, what does your community look like? My community look like Black people, Black children, Black women, Black men. That is what my community looked like growing up on the south side of Chicago. Okay. And so during that time, being a child and listening to the heartbreak of what my community was not getting. Just hearing things from adults, from a child point of view, that I never wanted to be in politics. Even though at one time I said, oh, I want to be president. I can be president, the first woman president. But that's just because I felt like I wanted to change the world. But I knew that politics was not it, because we all have different views. And those views come of what our life is, on what our life and what our values is in life. So let me share this with you. And it's something that I thought about yesterday, is that, which is crazy, and I never thought of it before, is that we all can have values that are same. And hear me when I say this. We can have the same values, but the meaning of those values to us and to our life may not be the same, because our path of life are not the same. And how we relate to those are not the same. So let me go into this conversation. So the conversation started off as, a gentle talking about family. I'm talking about certain situations. And this said friend of mine has sent me a video on capitalism by this beautiful young Black woman that read this book, that wrote this book. And he wanted me to better understand him and where he was coming from. And out of respect for him and our relationship as friends, and just to understand him, I looked at the whole video in entirety. There were some things that I agreed upon in the video and some things that I did not. But I respect others' beliefs and what they do, but I also look for people to respect my beliefs as well. So as we begin to talk in this conversation, I can feel the heat rising between the both of us. And it's because I felt at that moment is that my boundaries was being crossed. A boundary was being crossed here. And so I, in turn, said, okay, look, we might need to stop, because I'm going to remind you what my boundaries are. I don't do politics. And this person asked me why I don't do politics. Now, remember yesterday I shared with you all that when I tell you no, I shouldn't have to have a response back. I shouldn't have to explain to you why I don't. But I in detail explained to him why. And not in detail. I told him because I'm very passionate about what I believe. And so I tend not to get into politics with others, because my perspective of you would change. And I'm just being honest. And when I'm talking to this person looks different from me. This person's background is different from me. Now I'm going to say this. One of my very best friends is a white man. Not only is he a white man, but he is a Chicago police officer. And so in his and I relationship, we understand where our boundaries at, and we understand that it's some conversations that we cannot have. And it's not about, well, you're not being real with, no, I am being real. And that my best friend is being real, because we know that we walk two different life paths that are not intertwined with one another. So we're going to be in that gray area together and love each other in that gray area. And we understand what that is, and we respect each other for that. And that's it. But this other said person, it felt for me, and I had to sit in it, and I had to listen to this conversation. But I only had to just listen to it with my ears, but I had to listen to it from my heart too. being a person that's now aware of my fullness. So when I'm listening to him and I'm understanding his take on it, and before I knew it, I was responding back to him in a manner of, you don't understand this walk. And I would dare not compare one walk to another. I won't do that. That one is better than the other or one care more for the other. That's why I don't do politics. I will bring somebody onto my platform to talk about politics, and I will share my little input, but I don't know anything about politics. Then I was challenged on what will I do for my community. Community is not, when you talk politics, is not all about helping the community. I'm helping the community from the inside out. I'm helping the community from within our heart. This right here is a community. The season of self-love is a community. Ask Naomi, Bridging the Gap is the community. This is where I do my work at. No, I don't do marches. I don't stay on platforms and speak about policies and things of that sort because that is not my forte. But as we have those conversations, as we have in that conversation, I kept seeing this person kept pushing towards my boundaries. Yet I've told him in our conversation that that is my boundary. And I asked myself, sitting here today, why did you continue in that conversation and just not abruptly close it out? Because of the love or the respect that I have for that person. Because the love and the respect that I have for that person. And what I saw, I did not want to see that person like that. Does that make sense? And you know that saying, people show you who they are? That can be very, very true. But is that person coming to you whole? Is that person coming to you healed? Does that make sense? So there were some words that were very triggering that was happening in that conversation. It was words that was happening in that conversation. And when I sit back and I think about it, I think about us when we talk about being our authentic self. What if being your authentic self is not received by everyone, especially a loved one of yours? What do? And let's talk about on the flip side, what if someone shows you their authentic selves, but it doesn't sit right with you? What do you do? Well, these are challenges that I experienced in real time yesterday. So as I am replaying this conversation in my head, I am marinating in it. Because you know me, I am trying to find what's the lesson in this for me? What's the lesson in this? Is it for me to cut this relationship off? Is it me to put more boundaries on this relationship? What is it? I know it's to share with you all, but what is this lesson? What is this interaction? And I know y'all like, Naomi, we want to know the whole detail of it. You know, I don't want to do that because that loved one, they listen to this show and they know exactly who I'm talking to. The thing when the conversation ended, and it ended, and I'm gonna be honest, it ended with a Southside Chicago woman, girl, with vein in the middle of her head and her nose flared up. I haven't gotten that way in a long time. Because when I left that conversation, I left feeling disrespected. I left feeling a whole bunch of type of ways and a whole bunch of type of ways about that person. And I had to go back and think about the 7 years of our relationship that we had and what did that look like? And then I had to remember everything is not black and white. Everything isn't black and white, but we want to think that. We want to think that. We want to think that everything is black and white. There exist of countless of shades of gray. And sometimes one of the most loving things that we can do, both ourselves and for others, is to honor our boundaries for ourselves and with others. You know, Dr. Will talked about yesterday when we explained about healthy relationships happen when two individuals are actively working on being healthy and decide to share an experience together. But what happens when those boundaries are crossed? What happens when that experience becomes shared, isn't respectful of our clearly stated limits? You see, that's where the real work comes in. That's where we are challenged to stand firm in our self-love while still approaching others with compassion. You know, I've been thinking a lot about this idea of black and white and gray thinking in a relationship. And so often we can't categorize things, you know, all good or all bad. If this person is right or that person is wrong, or this view is correct and this view is misguided. You know, but relationships, real human connections, they don't work that way. They're more complex and more nuanced. They exist in beautiful. They can exist and be beautiful and sometimes be so messy in between. I want to go back to a question that this person asked me yesterday. He asked me about, and didn't ask me what my thoughts were on Palestine, but it said to me, you as, and I wanted to take this statement, you as a privileged Black woman should know, should care about what happens to the Palestine children over there. I do care. And I pray for everyone. But I'm going to be real. I think about my Black children here. I think about my Black daughters. I think about all of the sex workers. I think about everybody here. The problem is that we don't do our own work here within our own country. We don't have things together here. How dare we go in someone else's country and try to do something when we can't help the very people that's here right now? But this is when we talk about self-love. We do the same thing with ourselves. We don't work on us before we try to go out there and do things and loving on other people and creating these families from broken places instead of working on us and healing us. So to answer that person's question on what do, I create and use my platforms for spaces like this. Till I'm going into the foundation of the problem, the core of the problem. And that's what you think about yourself. Because what we think about ourselves is what we project out there to the world. What we think about ourselves, that's how greed comes. That's how all of these things happen because of the hurt that we have, and we hurt others from that. And we don't heal from it. So we get to projecting on one another. Can I be honest? Did I feel challenged? Oh my God, did I feel challenged? But when I saw that conversation for me, that it wasn't anybody being right or wrong. And for me, that person wanted to be so right. And I heard everything that this person said, but I would never tell another person that their concerns for them and their is less than what someone else's. Never. Never. That's why I don't get in politics. And then there were several things personally that was brought up about me and challenging me of my privilege. I'm not privileged. I'm blessed. Me as a Black woman in America, in world, privilege, never. But I'm blessed. It's a difference. It's a difference. It's a difference. I've worked very hard. Myself, my husband worked very hard for everything that we have gotten. Everything, whether I was fucking on camera or not. Everything that we have. And still have challenges to this day. There are certain things that individuals that are privileged are able to get just because the color of their skin and their sex. That I, as a Black woman, cannot. So when we talk about nurturing relationships, when we talk about self-love, when we talk about putting and having communicating with one another and having boundaries, this is where you have to really sit and listen with your heart and not with your ears to respond to be right, but to respond to understand with compassion, with empathy. So I asked myself, what's your challenge today, Nyomi? What was your challenge yesterday, Nyomi? What do you do with this? Because I know some of you probably going through the same thing. A matter of fact, after that, I went to go work out. And I remember having a conversation with my husband, and I was really upset. Southside Chicago came straight on out. But then I had to remind myself of who I am and what work I've done. And I had to remind myself of who that person was. That person isn't mean, ill-intentioned. No, that person is a very loving person. But that person also needs healing, even though that person is very aware. So then my question goes back to self. What do you do with this information? I know you're going to share it with the listeners, with the community, but what you're going to do with it for yourself? How does that look for you? And I can't have an answer in one day because I'm human. I'm human with emotions. Like I said before, everything is in black and white. When I woke up this morning and I was getting my tea ready to come in here and talk with you all, and I knew I was going to be a little late getting this episode out, is because I wanted to really sit in it, and I wanted to make sure that I was talking in a way that you heard me, not coming from a victim person or someone, but talking real, because this stuff is happening for us in real time. And even on the opposite side, even on that person that, overstepped their boundaries, like, wow, I did not really realize that. My hope is that in that conversation, that there was truly a lesson for them, not only for me, but for anybody that they have a relationship with and communication with, that they can step outside of themselves and look at the perspective with compassion, with empathy, and not to be right, not to stand in judgment of anyone, but to respect that person. If yesterday wasn't a loud scream for me or for that person, I don't know what was. I don't know what was. But as I was going downstairs and I was getting the tea, I was getting my tea. I walked to the front door. Some said, go walk to your front door. I walked to my front door and I saw my black and white room. And as I was walking through the hallway, the little threshold part, the hallway into the family room and the kitchen, and I saw the shades of gray. When I seen the black, and then I see the accents of the gold, and then I'm putting a little green in. And I started to laugh to myself, and I said, wow. I said, truly, how ironic is that I even set my space up, my home up, for a transformative moment. That we always look, that people have been taught that everything is either black or white. There is no in between. And that is not true. There are grays. There are so many shades of gray. So many shades of gray. And when we have these conversations with others that come from different walk of life, that have a different perspective, have different professions, have different religions, different views, different values, or even the same values, but within their values, it's not black and white. There's still shades of that. That is where you have different perspective on things. That's where the compassion and the empathy for someone else, life, or their live, or where they come from. And so when I sat with this yesterday and today, I actually had spent some time with this because as I said before, I want to make sure that I use my voice. I use my platform. And that I'm intentionally putting back into this world and not just sitting back complaining, but I'm intentionally doing something of a positive aspect. And so I created this exercise called the Shades of Gray Perspective, okay? And in this exercise, this is just to help me to tremendously is to navigate the complex in our relationship. And let me start with number one, is how this works. Is first is to identify a relationship tension. So while you in the middle of this conversation, identify a relationship. I want you to think about recent disagreement that you've had, or the tensions of one of your relationships. Maybe someone crossed the boundaries, or you had a differing of views on a very important topic. And then two, I want you to notice black and white thinking. I want you to write down all or nothing thoughts that you have about this situation. These might sound like they never listen to me, or I'm always the one who has to compromise, or their view is completely wrong. So you want to go from here is they never listen to me, or their views is completely wrong. That's just an example. So whatever conversation or whatever relationship that you having right now that is strained or whatever, think about that. And then the next one, I want you to find the gray areas. Now, for each black and white statement, I want you to challenge yourself to find at least 3 shades of gray: nuance, exceptions, or complicities that exist between the extremes. So, for example, why they didn't respect my boundaries in this conversation, they have shown me respect in other ways. Although we disagree on this issue, we do share many core values. Does that make sense? So I could have easily looked at that conversation as a black and white conversation. This is what this person showed me who they are in this moment that I've never seen before, and that's what it is. Or I can go back and look at the relational that we had within this past over 7 years of our relationship together as friends. And see what that looks like. And does it add up to this moment? Does that make sense? Then I want you to create a boundary statement based on your reflection. Create a clear statement that honors both your needs and the complexity of the relationship. For example, I care about our friendship, and I need my boundary around political discussions to be respected. That's my statement. And then next, I want you to practice compassionate communication. I want you to find a way to express your boundary that acknowledges both your needs and the other person's perspective. And this might sound like, okay, for me, I value hearing your thoughts, and I've noticed our political discussions often leave me feeling drained. I love to focus our conversation on other areas where we connect more easily. So that's me respectfully switching from this conversation that makes me uncomfortable, but still letting them know that I heard them. And let's go to another conversation. And I'm just using mine as an example. So you can put whatever disagreement or whatever thing that is happening in that relationship, you have it fit for you. You see, what the power of this exercise is about compromising your boundaries. And what I mean by compromising your boundaries, it's about knowing what your boundaries are and being able to say what your boundaries are. But when that person crosses it, and it's going to be sticky when I say this. And I guess because I'm a person of a very, I'm a person that is full of grace, empathy, and compassion. So when I see people and I feel people, I feel their energy of hurt right off from the very beginning. And I know when I conversate with certain people that I might not be on the same level as them as emotional intelligence of conversation, if that makes sense. Meaning that, and it could be just for that conversation in that moment. And that's what I have to respect. So when I say about compromise, I don't mean compromising it all, but I mean looking at it in a different perspective of what they cross the boundaries. That's it. That's a fact that they cross the boundaries. Now, what do I do with that to where this doesn't become a toxic situation? How can I still honor and respect my boundaries, but honor and respect them in where I heard, let them know that I heard and I see you. That is what this exercise does. It's about recognizing that we can disagree with someone's views while still seeing their humanity. We can sit firm in our boundaries while still approaching others with an open heart. You know, another thing about yesterday's experience that really highlighted for me, it was truly the importance of listening with your heart. Not just hearing the words that someone is saying, but truly understanding where they're coming from emotionally. In Thursday episode last week, I talked about the healing space between us. You know, that invisible but very real connective tissue that binds us in a relationship. That space needs tending. It needs respect, and sometimes it needs firm boundaries to keep it healthy. As Leslie will share with us tomorrow about boundaries, she said boundaries aren't walls. See, they're bridges. She said that they are bridges, and they create these conditions where real intimacy can flourish because we know our limits are respected, that we can show up more authentically and vulnerable. And I want to be clear about something. Setting boundary isn't about controlling others or forcing them to change. It's about being honest about what you need to feel safe, respected, and honored in a relationship. It's about taking responsibility for your own well-being. The truth is that not everyone will understand or respect your boundaries. And that's okay. That doesn't mean that your boundaries aren't valid or that you shouldn't hold them. It just means that some relationship may need to shift or change as you commit more deeply to honoring yourself. So I want to give you all a challenge. So here's a challenge for you all this week. I want you to identify one relationship where you feel your boundaries need more clarity or reinforcement. And I want you to reflect on what specifically feels misaligned or uncomfortable. Then I want you to use our shades of gray perspective and craft a loving but firmly boundary statement. I want you to practice saying this statement out loud to yourself. I want you to feel how it resonates in your body. Does it feel true? Does this feel true to me? Does it feel aligned with your values and your needs? Then when the time feels right, find a way to communicate that boundary with love and clarity. I want you to remember that you are not asking for permission to have this boundary. No, you're not. You're simply communicating in the act of self-love in a relationship care. Because remember, we're talking about nurturing relationships. We're talking about nurturing relationships. And finally, I want you to notice on how it feels to honor this boundary. I want you to pay attention to any resistance that comes up, any guilt or fear that these feelings are normal. I want you to recognize that these feelings are normal, especially if you're not used to prioritizing your own needs. And I want you to be gentle with yourself through this process. All right, my family. If today's episode has resonated with you, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who might need this message. You know, your story matters. Your boundaries matters. And your growth matters. So join me tomorrow for Wisdom Wednesday when Leslie Lindsay Davis will deepen our understanding of boundaries and self-love in relationships. So until then, I want you to remember that honoring your boundaries isn't selfish. It's truly an act of self-love that creates the foundation for truly healthy connections. Keep listening with your heart and keep honoring your truth. And keep loving yourself. And as I say, always keep it sexy. Have an amazing, amazing Tuesday. Have a good one, y'all. Thank you for joining us on this journey of discovering and empowerment here at the Season of Self-Love podcast. Remember, embracing self-love is a continuous journey, and we're so glad to have you with us. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a review. And don't forget to join our community on Facebook at Season of Self-Love. Connect with like-minded individuals who are also on their self-love journey. Now, if you have any questions or topics that you'd like for us to explore, we love to hear from you. Email us at seasonofselflove@gmail.com and let your voice be heard. So until next time, take a moment for yourself today and remember, you are worthy of love, joy, and all the beautiful things that life has to offer.